Morning, everyone, and happy Friday to everyone. Duana Boswell Rochelle here with Ask an Attorney on Facebook Live. And today we are going to be talking about name changes. But first, just a couple of updates on some emergency orders and proclamations that have been issued. The main two that I've seen is elective surgeries have been suspended for all local counties. Pretty much everything in Texas, I think, has suspended elective surgeries to increase the capacity availability for COVID treatments. And they have postponed jury trials. No jury trials can be set until after October 1st. So those are two main updates. I know that we've all been following whether or not our kids are going to go back to school in person or virtual, and that looks like it's still pretty fluid. I think most of the area around Houston has delayed start until September, and it looks like they're going to evaluate that, and that they may be doing most areas are doing a hybrid, some online, some in person. Um, my daughters actually go to Sam Houston State, and it looks like they're going to be doing a hybrid with an elective to remain online if you have accommodations that you need because of a health condition that puts you in the vulnerable population. So I would just say keep your ears open and just look for updates and be safe and take care of yourselves. So I get asked a lot about name changes, and I think this has seen an increase because of the new enhancement driver's license, where we're required to show certain identification so that we can get this enhanced driver's license, which was required as of this year, I believe. And what some people are running into is the name that they always use that was on their probably their driver's license and maybe social security cards or other identification doesn't match their birth certificate, and then they're running into some issues where they can't get their license renewed until they get the name change or the name uh, conflict resolved. So it's not super difficult to get your name changed through the courts if that is necessary. Basically, you just file a petition. Um, there's certain requirements on that petition. You want to make sure that you file it in the county where you live. And you have to identify whether you are a convicted felon or a registered sex offender. Um, those don't necessarily preclude you from a name change, but you have some additional steps that you have to go through in order to get that approved. Once you file your petition, you will need to go and get your fingerprints. So you can get a fingerprint card through the Texas Department of Public Safety, uh, DPS as we like to call it. And they actually use an outside company called Safran for fingerprints right now. And you can find locations throughout Texas in order to get those fingerprints done. And that website you can go to is www.ibtfingerprint.com/locations. You can also very easily just Google DPS fingerprint locations, and it should come up with the information. So when you prepare your petition, it has to be sworn, which means you have to sign it, and it has to be you either have to use a declaration, an unsworn declaration, or sign it in front of a notary. The filing fees varies by county. So you would need to go to your county district clerk and look up their fee schedule. It's probably going to be $200 or more, somewhere around there. Um, and if you can't afford the court costs, there is a, um, a way to get the filing fee waived by filing a statement of inability to afford costs. One of the things that you would need to really qualify for that is to have applied to one of the legal aid organizations in the area, and they should be able, if they can't help you with the case, they'll send you a letter that you can attach to the statement of inability to afford court costs saying that you did qualify, but they weren't able to help you. And that helps speed the process. You don't have to do that, but it is an additional tool that's available for you to use. So once you get everything filed, and that statement of inability to afford court costs is actually a form that you file with the courts. Now, some counties, they may challenge that, so you may have a hearing with the court to determine whether or not you are eligible. Right now, most of the courts, because of COVID, whether or not it's kind of on a court by court basis, whether or not they would have you do a Zoom hearing, if you could just file an affidavit, or if they're going to require you to come in person. So you'd want to make sure and contact the court if your statement of inability to afford costs is challenged for any reason. Once you've got your fingerprints, they'll return those results to the court. And once those are in, you can set your hearing. And once again, it could be via Zoom. They may take an affidavit of your testimony, or some courts may want you to come in person to basically tell the court why you need the name change and that you qualify for it. If you are a convicted felon, you need to, like I said, there's a few more hoops that you would go through. So if you're a registered sex offender, you have to attach a completed sex offender registration update to the petition. And anything that is charged above a Class C misdemeanor has to be included in the petition along with the case number and court of each offense. If you were convicted of a felony, you also have to show that it's been at least 2 years from the date you received your certificate of discharge. So once you completed any sentences with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, or it has been at least 2 years from the time you were released or discharged from probation, or that you were pardoned. So they want to see those items in addition to your fingerprint card. If your name change is granted, you can go to the clerk's office and you can either get a certified copy of the final order changing your name, or they also can issue you a change of name certificate. There's different charges for each thing, so I would just decide what's the most cost effective for you of which one you want to do. You'd want to get multiple copies because you're probably going to have to send it to multiple places. So sometimes I think the process through the courts of changing the name is much easier. Probably one of the easiest times to change your name is during a divorce. So you can change your name to a name that you've used prior. During or in the final decree of divorce, most people would go back to their maiden name or maybe a previously used name if they were married before, but it has to be a name that they have used before. And it's very easy. Usually you get asked by the court, are you changing your name to avoid criminal prosecution? And are you changing your name to avoid creditors? Those two things don't necessarily say that you can't get your name changed, but they do want that information from you. So you got your name changed. Now what do? Here's where the real work begins. So some things that you want to keep in mind whenever you do your name change is you're going to need a new driver's license or state identification card. You're going to need to contact all of your bank accounts, anything that you have through the bank, safe deposit boxes, that sort of thing. Change your name there. You're going to want to, I would probably pull a credit report so that you have a listing of all of your credit accounts, because you're going to want to contact each and every one and update your name with them. You want to get a new Social Security card. It's Form SS5. You can get that on ssa.gov. You'll file that, and you really want to make sure that you get that done quickly because there is a time delay between the application and getting your new card. And if you don't change your Social Security card and you file taxes under your new name, then there's going to be a delay in processing your return, and which could delay any refund that you're entitled to. So you want to make sure that your Social Security card matches the name that you have on your taxes. You're going to want to notify any other creditors that you may have. Notify your utility companies, your electric, your gas, your water, your phones, cell phone companies. You want to update your name there. If you've got a passport, you want to make sure you change that. You also want to let the post office and mail carriers know that they're going to start seeing mail for a different name at your address. You want to make sure change any car titles and registrations that you have for any vehicles, cars, motorcycles, boats, anything that's registered with the state. You're going to make sure that you update those registrations. Insurance companies, it's important that you make sure that your name change on your insurance is completed. So you want to think about your life, your car, your health, homeowners, renters, any kind of insurance that you have, you want to make sure and update your name. Most importantly, you probably want to make sure that you change all your information, let all your friends and relatives know. Maybe you send them an email. You're going to want to change some social media accounts and make sure that they're all updated. You want to make sure you tell your employer of your new name, and talk to your HR company if you have one, and make sure that everything is changed and updated with them. You also want to make sure that any retirement, pension, investment accounts, anything like that has been updated. If you work with a financial planner or a certified fiduciary, make sure that your name change is completed with them, and so that they can make sure all your accounts are updated. You'll want to make sure that everybody at work and all your coworkers and people that you work with, vendors, anybody like that, if you're in sales, all your customers, make sure that they understand that your name has changed. And a lot of times that's fun because it's a way that you can update some marketing and some contacts, and have them celebrate this change with you. You want to possibly change any email addresses in which your old name was a part of that address. So I know a lot of us use our first and last name at Gmail, Yahoo, whatever. You'll probably want to make sure those are changed to reflect the new name. So sit down and make a list of any place where you have a membership, library, gym, frequent flyer, any kind of traveling things, any place where, online subscriptions to anything that's got your old name, you'll want to make sure you change it. Another thing to consider, you might want to update your will, powers of attorney, any other legal documents that you have in your former name to reflect your new name. You want to make sure that any of your medical providers, doctors, any place that gives you treatment has your new name as well. And as I said earlier, social media accounts, you'll want to update those as well. So I'm sure there's probably plenty of other things that you need to do to update your name, but these are some of the main considerations that you'd want to look into, making sure that your name is changed. As always, if you have any questions or if you need help changing your name, you can reach out to me through direct message on Facebook, or you can email me at Duana, D-U-A-N-A, at boswelltexaslaw.com, and I will get back to you. You can also call me at 832-919-6595. We do offer a free 15-minute consultation, so if you have some questions and you just want to ask them, there's no money that you have to pay up front in order to get those answers. Just reach out to me. I look forward to helping you and hearing from you. And as always, if you have any certain questions or anything that you want to ask, just send me an email, Duana at boswelltexaslaw.com, and your question will probably be answered in the next week. Anyway, everybody have a great weekend and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Bye now. Oh, I just saw a question actually, and I will answer that. And so the question is, if you send emails from work, will you need to use a new signature? If you're changing your name, then you would need to update your signature as well. Good point. Thank you, Terry. Uh, anyway, see you all next week, and you have a good weekend.